Welcome back to the show, everybody. Check out these headlines. I had a chance to sit down with the one and only Andy Schectman from Miles Franklin Company, Precious Metals Invest. And I'm going to tell you something. We had a remarkable conversation about what is taking place on the geopolitical stage with the currency wars, BRICS expansion, and I've got the highlights for you. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. You can follow us on YouTube and Twitter for exclusive content at the top of the screen. Right now, $1.12 trillion market cap for crypto. The market is off by 0.5%. Bitcoin, 27,000, slightly over right now, $16.99 and change for Ethereum. XRP's 52 cents. It's off by 1.7 in the 24-hour and 0.2 on the 7-day. Let's get into this. Look, today's show is about Miles Franklin Precious Metals Invest. I'm telling you, I had the most remarkable conversation with Andy Schectman from Miles Franklin Precious Metals Invest. And let me tell you, I bought a 1-ounce gold American Buffalo. Look at this thing. It's amazing. Now, I'm going to tell you something. Owning gold is an amazing thing to do. I have gold and I'm getting more gold, and you're going to see why as we play some of these highlights from this conversation. But then I also want to tell you too, because you know I also use Glint. Gold is money. So I buy and hold physical gold, and I also use Glint to get physically allocated gold so it can buy, save, and send and spend real gold instantly with Glint, becoming your own personal alternative to banking. This is a remarkable opportunity as well. Click the link for both of these and make sure you get the best prices. Now, here's Andy Schectman talking about simulated war games, and take a listen to this clip right here.
No one is talking about this. Nobody. And now all of a sudden you're hearing a lot of people talk about it. And, you know, someone I respect an awful lot who I had the good fortune of having a couple drinks with about a month ago in July was James Rickards. And, you know, James was enlisted, I guess you could say, by the CIA several years ago to help run simulated financial war games. In other words, how do you beat a country, or how do they beat us without firing a missile? Do it financially. And he's written best-selling books, and so he's very tied in. And he did something that I publicly said I didn't have the courage to do. When I speak in terms of BRICS, I always speak in terms of probabilities and in generalities and in macro perspective. I do believe, because gold was reclassified the world's only other tier 1 reserve asset by the Bank of International Settlements in April of 2019, the same organization who told us that every country needs to have an operational CBDC by 2025, that we will see a gold-backed currency or a commodity-backed currency. We were told that by the Russian finance minister almost 2 years ago. He said it repeatedly. Sergei Lavrov, something to that extent. He's mentioned it over and over and over and over again, and it will happen. No one is talking about this. Nobody. And now all of a sudden you're hearing a lot of people talk about it. And, you know, someone I respect.
And listen, we got more to go for that for sure, but take a listen to this next clip. And by the way, the reason that this looks this way is because for some reason, and I'm late getting my video out this morning, because Twitter is not allowing me to share this content with you. It is stonewalling me from being able to upload this post. It's only 1 minute and 29 seconds. And you tell me why that's happening. I can't even begin to tell you why it's happening. But here's another incredible clip where he talks about the US dollar is moving towards an economic Niagara Falls. Take a listen to this as I set this up here for us.
How things are continuing to accelerate. And I've used the term logarithmic decay for a while now. In logarithmic decay, you can envision being way upstream on Niagara Falls, on the river. And you may be way back there and you don't know where you are. You know, 200 years, 300 years ago, you don't know where the heck you are. You're on the river, you're exploring, and you start to slowly, ever slowly tilt. you're going a little faster. You see the river moving, and you hear something out in the out in the distance. You don't know what it is. So little by little, you're going faster. Little by little, it's turning down. Little by little, bang, all at once when you hit the falls. Now, I don't know where we are, but I think that's exactly what will happen when they flip the switch. When Saudi Arabia and OPEC says, hey, thanks, guys, you're going green. We've joined with 85% of the world that isn't going green. You've signed an executive order. You're inflating your currency. We are being protected by 2 of the 3 largest nuclear arsenals in the world, and what amounts to a bigger GDP this year than the G7. So we're going to, no disrespect, but we're going to take other currencies for oil. And when that happens, every single country on the planet dumps dollars that they've had to hold for 50 years to buy oil. And the ramifications of that becomes incredibly significant when you see a tsunami of inflation hitting our shores, and the byproduct is interest rates that go parabolic, and the lack of demand, or the complete evisceration of demand, will have massive effects not only on the trade value of the dollar, but on the settlement, or excuse me, on the reserve status of it as well.
So really, just as Brian Brooks has said, the former OCC, Office of Comptroller of Currency, that we are headed towards a rapid cliff, as he says, we see Andy Schectman seeing the same scenario here. He doesn't pretend to try to know exactly when we may reach that Niagara Falls, but we are absolutely headed towards some kind of a moment that has to be reckoned with. And if we see Saudi Arabia say that we are no longer exclusively trading oil in US dollars, he believes that inflation will soar. I point again to the window and the gap between the gold standard being dropped in 71 by Nixon and 73, 74 timeframe when we saw Kissinger go over and secure the petrodollar agreement to elevate the status of the world reserve currency, the US dollar. And in the interim, the US dollar soared into inflation. So let's go again and check this. And look at this. Here's another clip I have that's set up that you can't see because they're shadow banning me. It's unbelievable. I don't know what's going on here with Twitter, but I thought Elon Musk was all about letting us put things on here. But there's nothing about this that should be intimidating or damaging for people to hear, for goodness sakes. Let's take a listen to this clip now. Okay, so I've had to load these things up to Dropbox just in order to get them to a place where I could actually let you listen to these. I want you to listen to this exchange here. Again, all of this based around what's happening with the BRICS expansion, the G7, the BIS, the IMF. He believes we've crossed the Rubicon. Take a listen to this clip.
How to answer that question other than to say, if they issued the IMF in conjunction with all the Western entities, the United States and the members of the G7, issue a gold-backed settlement currency like a special drawing rights, yeah, that would be about the only thing I could see that would help reverse this tailspin. But I think you might be able to argue we've already crossed the Rubicon, and at this point, it's just a matter of it all playing out in a negative fashion, unfortunately.
Yeah, look, I first of all, I think it was just really great to hear your thoughts on that. I'm a patriot myself, and it's not about being right or left. And to a point that you made in there, I just want to touch on, I've always believed there's really only like 2 kinds of people in the world. It's the haves and the have-nots, right? And the haves have always used 3 tools in their toolbox to control the masses. And it's racial warfare, class warfare, and gender warfare. And they'll never need another tool in their toolbox. And they've been able to divide us as the masses for decades upon decades, if not hundreds and hundreds of years at this point. I don't know where these things go either, but I tend to say I am leaning in, and have been from my channel for quite some time, that this deal with Saudi Arabia joining BRICS is absolutely to the blessing behind the scenes of the United States. You do not abandon a petrodollar agreement when military protection is what we offer you, and you just simply walk away from that, because normal order would be that some 3-letter agency will end up in your neighboring country that's not a friend of yours and do something under the guise that it's that country. And the next thing you know, guess who needs U.S. protection? Right? So if they really wanted the Saudi Arabia not to move anywhere, I would expect to see events like that take place to make sure that they didn't go anywhere. So this does look like it's happening in a coordinated fashion at some point from this administration and where we're sitting today. Where it goes, nobody knows. But what I am sure of is gold is going to be smack dab in the middle of it. And I tend to believe that we are going to see a moment, because technology is among us today, like XRP and the XRP ledger and distributed ledger technology broadly. And I believe, just like the Bancor coin was proposed before the dollar was accepted in 44, we now have the technology to provide that bridge asset today where it doesn't infringe on the sovereignty of all the nation's currencies, but yet works more like water than oil these days to complement the friction that we move from the paper world to the digital world. And knowing that BRICS is now going to move to using their own country's currencies more over than the US dollar, I think we're seeing a very fertile ground where we could see the introduction of a bridge asset like XRP and a decentralized exchange, XRP-Ledger, that could be unified for all the governments of the world, right, kind of thing. I'm not so much on a globalist kick. I'm not, it kind of concerns me that how it goes, but I think everybody will have their own domestic private systems, and it will interact with a massive international global ledger. And if we get that, I think everybody can retain their rights, their culture, right, and everything, the laws that they live by, because there's so many different cultures and people around the world. And I think at the end of the day, when you boil everything away, we're all human beings, and we want much the same thing: a peaceful, joyful life for all of our family, right?
Absolutely. I saw Saudi Arabia just signed on with the XRP ledger. So look, I think the probability or the likelihood of those kinds of things happening grow by the day. On a central bank scale, that is exactly what they're doing. China and the United Arab Emirates and maybe Singapore developed something called Project M Bridge, as in money, which is exactly that. It's a cross-border ledger system, or bridge, if you will, to each other's central bank digital currency, sidestepping the SWIFT system. The Western central banks, or the U.S. Federal Reserve, is something called, I think, Project Cedar, pretty sure, something along those lines. That's the same exact thing. The IMF is talking about having a bridge platform for various central bank digital currencies to surmise that you would see something more for the communities, for the consumers, the global consumer, to have that type of a bridge platform, I think, is highly intuitive. It's very logical. Wouldn't surprise me at all. But the one thing I will tell you is that we are going away from a society that uses cash and traditional forms of settlement into one that embraces this type of digital settlement. The Fed just came out with their Fed Now 2 weeks ago. Not a lot of people know about it because it's they're doing it slowly. But that is like the Fed's version, or the Federal Reserve's version of Venmo and Zelle, instant settlement. That is the foray into the central bank digital currency. So yeah, and I do believe gold will be part of what comes next, absolutely. And to use the immutability and veracity of a ledger system and the ability to transact cross-border, or whatever, cross-platform, that all makes great sense to me, 100%. And I think these are the kinds of things that you will see with greater frequency and greater significance start to take hold over the next, next year, next 2 years. I mean, by 2025, the BIS said everyone has to have a central bank digital currency. If you take the countries around the world, all of them that make up 95% of the gross domestic product of the world, every one of them has an operational CBDC already. Pretty much it is being beta tested or in development. So yeah, these things are coming. There's no question about it.
He's absolutely right. These things are coming. I want to thank Andy Schectman and all of you for tuning in today. And I want to tell you, these are just a few pieces of straight fire that we had in our conversation. The full interview will be released shortly. Keep a lookout for that one. But until then, that's going to wrap us from now. They can't hold us down. They're not going to hold us down, whether it's Twitter or YouTube or anybody else. We got to keep moving forward and make sure you get the information. That's going to do it for me. Not financial advice from me or anyone else. Make sure you check the link underneath the video for Miles Franklin Company. Get the best prices for physical gold in your hands. Click the link or send the email, call the number and tell them #DIGGOLD. That's your code for the best price. And don't forget to click Glint And make sure you get your own personal alternative to banking right while you're at it too. I'll catch all of you on the next one.